Good deal. Okay, well, we're live. So appreciate you for being in here. So we're very honored to have you inside the Academy. I know we've known each other for probably 2 years now because of Clubhouse. So shout out Clubhouse.
Yes. Yeah. And we had a lot of mutual friends. And even though we're from different states, you have a lot of friends here in Arizona, sunny Arizona, best winters. Yeah. So I feel like we're really connected, even if we haven't met. And I'm excited to meet you very soon.
Yeah. Well, like I said, now's a good time to get down there when it's 7 degrees out and snowing in Nebraska. So we'll get out there eventually. So, all right. Well, we'll kind of kick it off because I would love to even ask these questions because I don't even know, as much in depth of your story. So, I guess start off with your background. I guess like kind of like your upbringing. Have you always, like you hear a lot of time, have you always knew you were an entrepreneur, or was it something you just initially got into?
I was the opposite of an entrepreneur. I was always really afraid, and I think it was my upbringing. Um, Daughter of immigrants, always in the scarcity mindset, 5 siblings, single mother. So education was always instilled in us. And so the only way out, I grew up in a very disadvantaged home, low finances, always struggling paycheck to paycheck. Quick little story, I even remember my mom having the cash underneath the toilet cover for when rent was due. Like, I remember very specific details. And so I grew up very scared and around fear. And it's like, if I want to be successful, I have to go to college. I have to go through this educational system, which I did because that's all I knew. And that's what my whole siblings went to college, except for my youngest one. He dropped out and he's doing very well in real estate. I'm happy he did. But I went through the whole schooling system and I have nothing against it. But now that I'm a full-on entrepreneur and I have done my own ventures, and there's nothing more that I would do. So I'm really happy I did that. But I went through school, top of my class, 1% in high school, graduated top of my class, and then went to Arizona State University, graduated with an accounting degree because, again, that was the most safest, secure way of always having a job. You're never going to get rid of taxes. So I graduated in 3 years. I was very ambitious, and I went into the biggest accounting firm in the world. I did that, and that was exactly when I said, I don't want to be in this cubicle. I can't do this. I'm really good at putting my mind to something and making it work. And I have the best work ethic. But when you do that and you put yourself in this box where you have to meet certain criteria in the corporate ladder, and there was so much pressure that I went through, and it was so scary to jump. How am I going to leave the job of my dreams that I said, now I'm able to take care of my mom. Now I have no debt. Now I know exactly where to go, right? The ladder. My next goal was I want to be the youngest Hispanic woman to become a partner in this firm. And I kind of knew I was going to do it, but then I was like, I don't want to go through this anymore because it was the long hours, and I saw my relationships dwindle, and I saw the time with my family lessen because of how much I was putting time into corporate. And then at the end of the day, you're always replaceable. And that is the hard reality of people in this corporate ladder that they don't really understand. And they build this identity, right? Just like we all do with everything. So I jumped, and it was scary. And I had a really good friend that started a marketing agency, and I've always helped him with accounts and secretary work and accounting work because I'm really good with numbers. And so I went into marketing and marketing agency, and I loved it and I thrived in it, and I was so creative. And that was my first initial quote unquote because he just started on his own. So it was him in the marketing agency, and I loved it. And I loved working with entrepreneurs, and I saw how hard they worked, and I saw what one sale could do to their business. And so I learned so many marketing tactics, and I said, this is the space I want to stay in. And doing so and working on inside this marketing agency, we started playing around with e-commerce brands. And then it became almost like a puzzle, and I was building brands, and I was learning how to start a business from scratch without knowing it. And so that is where my biggest entrepreneur journey came from. And it was born, and me and my partner started Snow Teeth Whitening from there. And he thought of the idea from his own problems, and businesses always grow from solving a problem, right? And I helped build that brand from the very start and created the products and customer service and product development and influencer marketing back then. And that was initiation of building an e-commerce brand.
Yeah, that's crazy. So already questions that I have from the story. So, because even I'm curious, when you quit your job, when you put your 2 weeks in, were you getting paid from that other agency, or like where you're like, I'm gonna figure it out? Because I know people from both realms where they kind of quit and said, I'm gonna figure it out. But did you kind of have like another source of income that you could rely on?
So I will tell you from my perspective, every single time that I jumped, I jumped scared. I jumped without having a plan B, and I jumped knowing that I would figure it out. I don't recommend it. I wish I was starting something and I had something and I had a nice little pile of cash, or let alone, I just told you my upbringing. I don't have parents or family, anybody that can lend me any money to start any sort of business. So no, and I don't recommend it because it's very stressful, but it's doable. It is doable if you believe in yourself, if you don't give up, if you're persistent, you say, I'm going to do it and figure it out, because you always figure it out.
Yeah, because that was me. Because I quit. I was at a 9 to 5 for probably like 7 years. And then I got into the brand space and built something with a business partner at the time, quit my job because it was paying me at the time. Well, 2 months later, that went away. So that was like a wake up moment where I'm like, okay, like you're in it now. Like there is no plan B. Because same thing. I was like, well, I just get rid of my income and I didn't have any money saved up. So yeah, it does cause a lot of stress, so that was something I wish I would have done, as well as like probably planned out, if it doesn't work out for the next 6 months, am I still going to be okay type thing. But
Yeah.
you never know, that's what
It always
maybe.
works out, right? It always plans out the way it should be. And I think what we could rely on, and the guarantee that I could rely on, is that I'll figure it out and I have resources and mentorships and I can reach out to people in your network. But yeah, it's really stressful.
Yeah, yep, I agree. So my next question is, obviously you said you guys started building Snow. So my question with that, because like I said, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of, somebody watching this. And once again, even I would want to know this, because I've been in this space and I'm even in it now with another business of, did you guys know from day one that like it's gonna crush it, like it's gonna do well? Were you 6 months in, still this is gonna be amazing? Or like what was the process of like getting off the ground? Because for me, for instance, I'm building a business right now that I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this could legit be a $50 million business. But right now, I'm not making anything. So it's like, how were you in that state where like, did you know you were about to build something that was going to go on to do like 9 figures, or were you just like, we'll see what happens?
No, now I will tell you the exact moment. We were building this company, and never in my head did I think it was going to be as successful as it is now. It was the scariest thing building it. It was the scariest thing because it was just us two for a little while and doing everything and putting all our focus, energy, and we were so committed to building it. And he couldn't do it without me. I couldn't have done it without him, because we both have very unique skill sets and we balance each other very well. But it was the scariest thing. And I never thought that it would be as successful, but I just knew it was a day by day consistent grind, hustle, and blood, sweat, and tears. And for Black Friday, I would miss so many Thanksgivings for my family, or take my laptop and be watching Black Friday deals. And I mean, it was stressful. And I'll tell you, when I first hired my first employee, and then the second, and then the third, I couldn't go to sleep, because now I had people depending on me. Now I had people depending on a full salary, and some of them were my friends and family. And I just didn't know that maybe tomorrow this could all go away. I would have those thoughts, like, and those doubts. Maybe tomorrow this doesn't work out. Now I have my first 2, 3, 5 people without a job. So I think that's what really kept me in the game and saying, if I'm doing it for me, I'm doing it for them, I'm doing it for the customers, and we're already all in it. So let's keep going.
Yeah, I love that. Because it is, I mean, I've done it too, hiring even your first one, you're like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, but then it's like, wait a second. Yeah, like they're looking at me, if I don't, it's crazy to think like, I've been in roles where I was an employee, now being in the role where you're like the CEO. I look back at those times and I'm like, man, like you probably had a lot of stress because like I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine, like same thing as you is like it's so scary being like people's families are relying on you. And it's like, I almost was like, I don't feel qualified to do this, but it's like you said, it's just the whole day-to-day thing. And that's something that I wanted to touch on too was I'm reading this book right now. It's called The Slight Edge, which I highly recommend people read. It's my favorite book ever. And it talks about that exact thing is I can look even at you from the outside in and say like, you built Snow and from the ground up, and like you hear people's stories like, oh yeah, like I built it, year later did this and this is what it's doing now. And you're like, well, that sounded easy. But
Yeah.
it's like you don't understand what goes into it. And like what I'm reading now is saying success isn't built in quantum giant leaps, that you hear of, oh, like it took me a year to do this. And like, okay, like you can just say that, but like when you really think about it, that's 365 days of consistently doing something.
Mhm.
So like what I'm reading about is like, and this is what I want people to understand is it's nothing's going to happen and crazy type things in a week or a month or 2 months. It's like it's all of the stuff that you do every single day, and doesn't have to be crazy amount of stuff you do every day. Just it's the typical 1%.
Yeah.
Do 1% of something every day, and over the course of a year, that can add up to a lot.
Yes, exactly. It's now that you look back at it now, the way I tell the story and what happened, and it's just I don't think people really fathom what it really took to build a company like this. And obviously, there was a lot of different factors: the timing, the product, influencers were fairly new when we started, so everything has to align, right? But I don't really think people understand the everyday feeling of the growing pains and sticking to it. And there's some companies that they do that and they still have to pivot because maybe it's not the right timing, or maybe it's not the right product or the right messaging. So everything has to be very consistent too. That's why I went into branding, because I look back and I said, what did it really take to build this brand? And for me, it has always been, obviously it's everything. You can't do anything with sales and marketing. It's so many things, but the big thing that I always go back to is branding. And what does that even mean is that everything has to be consistent, and the relationship between the company, of who the company is and what they're trying to do for the client or customer.
Yeah. Well, it's a typical saying is people buy from brands. I mean, it's the way it is, I don't, when I go out to get coffee, it's Starbucks, it's like, it's sad to say, like, I don't go to just, the random 13th Street coffee that's only, on this one street. I go to a brand,
Yeah.
so it's kind of the way it is. If it's like you said all the time, branding. Yeah.
The big why, like, I mean, it's with everything, like why this brand, why do they do this, how do they do it, what type of products and everything, and relating that message. But yeah, it took a lot to build this brand. I mean, later on I'll talk about burnout and how to avoid it, because I definitely went through that and didn't take care of myself. And the brand becomes very needy, and it becomes hungry for growth. And this is what you sign up for, right? It's like you wanted a successful brand, and it was when it starts asking you for growth and more time and more funding and more creatives and whatever that is. Like, it was a very needy baby that was growing really, really fast at a rapid pace. And so keeping up with that.
So you said something that I want to know is at what point, because like a lot of people refer to businesses as like bamboo growing, or like if you don't know the story of bamboo, I was told this by a gal named Sarah, is how bamboo grows. It's like it grows underground for like a year to 2 years at a time, and then a second it grows above ground. It's like 2 inches like every day or something. So it's like crazy.
Yeah.
So did you kind of have that in the business where like it just seemed like it was dragging, never was really taking off, never doing much, and then it like you had like a 6 month span, or was it always just kind of consistent growth the entire time?
I would say it was very fast, rapid growth because I mean, at year 3 or 4, we were already like upwards of 30 plus million. And
Wow.
so that's why it was so stressful because in such a short amount, it was just so successful. But the first 2 to 3 years, it was like a long dragging process and things we were learning on the really fast. So we were like, well, this went really bad. And I remember I handled the supply chain and going international. And for the longest time, I had this problem of packages being lost or being returned. And it's like, I have no idea these packages are going in the black hole in the middle of nowhere, and I just don't know where they're at. So like, I felt like I was always hitting this blockage and learning on the go. And there's so many mistakes. And so I think it was sticking to it. And I think what kept the growth of, obviously, Instagram influencers did great for us, and marketing and Facebook ads that my partner handled. But then on my side, I handle all of the product development, the customer service. My customer service standard was pristine, where everything was up, like we handle every single message and we make sure that we did right for the customer. So I did a customer centric approach. But it was a very, very fast, rapid growth right away in the first 3 years. And then after that, it was a snowball effect. And 3, 4, 5, and grew warehouse. And the next month, we knocked down walls to expand.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I mean, was the growth, you think it was obviously primarily because of like, I guess, what was your main driver? Was it 50-50 between like ads and influencers, or like would you recommend people try to do influencers because they already have like a good following that you can tap into?
There is a different factors, and I think one wouldn't be able to work with the other. Just like, well, if we have amazing marketing and we have great ads and influencers, when people receive the product and it's not up to quality, then that's just the first sale and it dies, right? There's no that long-term value with that customer. So I think everything had to be in alignment and it had to be consistent, and that's what building a brand is. But I think because there was something missing in the industry, the at-home convenience of it, the selfie aesthetic, Instagram, look at me, I'm taking a selfie. I want a better smile type of thing. Like that was also taking off. It was very easy to run ads and just putting every single dollar right back into the business. And then I would listen to customer, I would call them up, I would see what can we improve on the customer side of things, and I would instantly improve it. I would say, oh, this person, they're having problems with their lips, let's create a lip balm. So listening to the customer and having the flexibility, this is what you can't do in corporate, and that's why corporate and government takes so long. Where an ecom brand, you can improve really, really fast on the go to improve the product and the processes.
Yeah. And I like, because you're really big on it, the whole customer process, because I personally know people that had really big potential, like they had a great brand around it, but they neglected the customer service and the customer process of like buying from the brand so badly that like it just, I'm like, dude, that could have been a huge thing, but it didn't go anywhere because they didn't care. They saw the numbers coming in. This is amazing. This is great, but it's like pretty soon, after a year, it didn't exist anymore. And then they're left wondering, well, what had happened? I'm like, you didn't take care of the one person who's buying your product. So yeah, customer is your everything, because that's the thing too, is I'm sure it's happened with your brand is organically it'll happen too. People will post about it if it's a good product and if it's a good brand.
Mhm.
People share their experiences that they've had with other brands. It's like if they've had a really bad experience, they're probably going to post about it, because like
Yeah.
it was such a bad experience that they want that to be known. And same goes for a good experience. if somebody has such an amazing experience and the product is actually what it says it does and everything, they're gonna promote it. And it's like that obviously drives a lot of traffic to your brand as well.
Yeah, and it makes the media buyer's job a lot easier when they have the creatives, when they have the messaging, when they have a really good product that they can push and people would love it and they'll come back and they'll share the ad or they'll engage on it. So it just makes it so much easier. And why would you ignore the person you're trying to sell?
Agreed. So I want you to list, because I know there was a couple of them. What is the main things that you are going to be kind of teaching and promoting? You know, what's like your core? I think you have like probably 7 things or so that was like, this is what I'm going to teach.
Yeah, so because I had such a wide experience of starting a business from scratch, and I left 3 years ago when it was already uber successful, and I have taken it up to retailers, worked with celebrities, did international expansion. So because of that wide variety, I'm open to anything that the students need, but I love focusing on product development, supply chain, operations, systems, hiring, expanding, marketing, content, accounting, finance. Branding is the biggest one. And yeah, I mean, I'm up to date. I love talking to a lot of people and in the industry as well. And not only I'm very in love with e-commerce, but I've had a lot of clients in other service industries, and I mean even real estate. I mean, you can name it all. So I'm very good with all types of online businesses.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited too, because I come from, you know, the background of, if you give a brand a go and it doesn't work after 60 days, like drop it. It's never going to work. And it's like, that's not the case. You know,
Yeah.
like most people I've talked to is who builds a successful brand in 2 months? Nobody. You know, so I love that. I want to be talking about the whole stigma around, if you try something for a month or 2 months, it doesn't work, move on to the next one. And I'm like, that's going to be a dangerous cycle for a lot of people to get into, because once again, nothing is going to be crazy successful, if, you know, if at all, in the first 60 days. You know, I've got a business partner, her first 30 days, I think she lost a couple $1,000s because of, you know, ad spend getting going. Second month, I think she maybe made $1,000. And then the next 6 days after that, she hit 6 figures. So it's like, what, you know, people get taught too much that you need to see that instant success. And it's like, so
Yeah.
many people miss out on so many opportunities because they're just going to keep cycling things over and over and over because it wasn't instant enough. So I'm excited for you to touch on that, because I know, you know, this wasn't built in 60 days.
Yeah, yeah, and I've seen the ins and out of all types of businesses, even SaaS and tech. And so I love the startup growth, but I also love the scaling of it and the structuring. And I've had clients where I come in and they're making 10 plus million and their accounting is messed up and they have to pay a big a big amount of money for those mistakes. So I've seen a lot of those and I'm here to help avoid those.
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's like I said, we can almost create a whole series, you know, diving into one specific topic at a time, because I know there's a million things that goes into it that people, especially me, you know, I come from a medical background. I didn't know the first thing about starting a business or a brand. So this was something I wish I could have had this, you know, 3 years ago,
Same.
is talk to somebody that could be like, nope, don't do that. Like, you need to do this instead, and like just point you where to go, because that would have saved me a good year to year and a half of the heartaches and the pains and the wasted money and all of that.
Same, I'll touch on that too. While I was building this brand, I had the focus. My head was head down, and I just had the focus, and everything that I had to learn on the go. And is like, oh, I that's not how you do it. Let's try another way. I didn't really have a lot of mentors around or people telling me, hey, use this or do that or use this software or this is the way to do it. I learned everything on my own by just trial and error, and that caused the burnout. And so I really do wish I had mentors around me or in the space. And yes, I don't have time. At that time, I didn't have time to go to a networking event, but if you can have one person or one mentor tell you exactly how to guide you, that would have saved me so much money and time and energy.
Yep. Yeah, because I was scared to get a mentor because it was I've never done it. It was new to me. I went 11 months learning how to build a brand, and I did not make profit in 11 months. And then that very next month, I was like, you know what? Let's see what this whole mentor thing's about. Back then I was skeptical, because I
Mhm.
didn't have people tell me that's what you had to do. So I paid somebody, like I said, that was basically where I wanted to get to. And it was not money I had. I had actually had to take out a little loan because I was living paycheck to paycheck. And because of him, 30 days working with him, that next 30 days after working with him, I hit 97,000 in revenue in a single month, quit my job, have never looked back. So I want people to realize, like, there is people out there, I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, that are not, probably should be in the space of taking people's money for mentorship. But I also don't want people to say that, I don't want to get a mentor because there's YouTube. It's like, YouTube can only take you so far. You need
Yeah.
somebody that can actually chat with you, know about your struggles, that you can go to on a day-to-day basis.
And it's also the aggregated, very laser type of information you can get very quickly from a mentor that, yeah, you can spend 3 months on YouTube and learning for free, but you also have to calculate your time you're investing on that and what's that return and that, or spend 3 months doing that. Absolutely. But then there's a mentor that can tell you all that in an hour because we did
Really.
that. We went through that. I did the 10 plus years on the learning on the trial and error. And I'll tell you also a humbling experience right after I left Snow and I started doing my own thing. And 3 years later, now I'm a consultant. I had to quote unquote do it all over again. And I didn't know how to structure my own consulting firm. So I hire a mentor and I spend so much money on how to make sure I was going to be successful because I knew how to run a company and I left from running a huge team, but then I now had to start again on my own. And I invested in myself and the teachings and the mentors. So I'm also doing it all over again. And I'm sure if I go into another industry or another type, I know that now investing in the right mentor, it's so helpful.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did to build this academy and this company. Is we stepped into a space that, I've got two business partners in it. We didn't know the first thing to do. So we did know the first thing to do, and it was to hire somebody, to hire a mentor. And thankfully we did, because yeah, I really think that you said it. It's like, I almost feel like what you learn on YouTube or wherever in a 3-month period, if you were to hire a mentor that actually knows what they're doing in that space, it is like an hour's worth of information. Like, that's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
Like, when people come to me, and talk about, like, for me, it took six weeks to build my first website. I can do it in 2 hours now.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just goes to show is, pay people for speed. Pay to just get that information in. Because like you said, if you can squeeze 3 months of stuff into even a day to a week, imagine, what you can take from somebody's mind that they took a year to do. You can fit a year into 1 month.
And you
So
get closer to that return on investment right away.
yeah, that's very true, because that's where I was. Like I said, I got into trying to build a brand, and 11 months in, I'm like, well, I thought it was going to be 3 months that I was going to see a return, and little did I know it was going to be 13 months. But
Yeah.
yeah, if I would have just
We're here to tell them what not to do, at least.
correct. To be honest, I think that's kind of what a mentor basically is like, listen, we've stepped on every mine in the minefield, and I know exactly to where not to step now. So
Yeah.
that's usually the biggest thing, because some people, and we can touch on this, now or later too, is it's people, almost like glamour, I don't even know the word, like glamorize or whatever, they think entrepreneurship is like, it's going to be amazing. And like, being an entrepreneur now is like the cool thing to do. But it's like, when you really get into it, there's burnouts. There's, days where it doesn't work. There's months where you're frustrated. There's times where, me personally, like, I didn't know where I was going to get rent from. Like, there's been
Yeah.
times like that. Yeah. And
And
if
there's
you're
so
not,
many ups and downs. And if you'll see the most successful people, they've made millions and lost it all and did it again. And so like that hustle. But I really love the section that you have on mindset and accountability, because a lot of the times it is that mindset. It's that I call them the neighbors in your head that come in and knock and say like, no, it's hard, and go back to the comfort zone, because at the end of the day, we're humans and we want security and we want stability and comfort zone. And guess what's always going to be there? That's what I always tell myself. And I have those doubts, and I have those doubts, and I can go and consult and have a great healthy salary right away. But when you have that calling deep inside of you, and you have that fire burning, and you have a bigger purpose where you want to serve others, and that's the small sacrifice you take on. And it's the mental and the mindset that you really have to work on to be able to take you through those days that you don't want to do it, because we all have it, and all entrepreneurs have it. They have the doubt, they have the limiting beliefs, but you have to get really good at having the persistence, the resiliency bigger than those fears. And I think that's the accountability and the mentorship that comes.
yeah, the way I like to tell people, what reminds me, like an analogy that reminds me of entrepreneurship is kind of like I think it's like the Rocky Balboa when he's talking to whoever, but it says like, I feel like entrepreneurship is not about how hard you can punch, because everybody's like, I'm gonna, I have great ideas, I can, blah blah. It's like they think they can punch hard, but it really comes down to how hard can you take a hit.
Yeah.
Like I think that's entrepreneurship. Everybody gets into it like, I'm gung ho, I'm excited, I'm hyped, I've got hustle. That's great, that's a part of it. But when you get punched in the mouth, by life in your business, which is going to happen over and over again, how are you going to handle that? You're going to be able to get up every time? Because when you get punched in the mouth the ninth time, are you thinking like, okay, like I can't keep doing this? Or are you going to be like, I'm good? Yeah, like, because that's how I tell people is that's my analogy. When I actually go through it, I'm like, I thought I could punch hard, which I can, but I quickly found out, after I quit my job and 2 months later my income went away completely. I got punched in the mouth, and I wasn't expecting it. And I then had to realize like, okay, like, am I going to do this? Like
Exactly.
I had family saying, you might want to go get your job back. But I was like, oh, like,
They're always going to say that they want us to be safe and comfort zone. They don't want to see us struggle.
Yeah. So everybody, that's a whole other topic too, of,
Yes.
people in your corner. There'll be people who believe in you, but there's, people who, like family, they believe in you, just like, my family, they believe in me, but they want to see me safe. They want to see me in a spot where I don't get punched in the mouth. That's the world we live in, is the corporate world. The 9 to 5 is very safe. It's you can always predict that, it's there, but at the same time, it's kind of not, because you can get let go. But yeah, so a million things obviously that we can talk about now. Well, looking forward to all of this. Like I said, looking forward to everything that we can get going. We can create series. I know we're going to have tons of different calls. We'll have many people on here, like I said, that need to hear all of this. This is a great intro to getting into your world. People can kind of get an idea of what's to come with getting, some mentorship from you.
Yeah, I'm excited, and thank you so much for building this platform and bringing on creators like ourselves that I personally love to teach and educate and share my story and help others. So thank you for also giving me the opportunity to do that and help others.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So awesome. Well, at this point, like I said, you can probably stop recording if